Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am so excited to share with you my review of my Sabbath study from yesterday. This is Sunday, October the 26th. And this what time is it? It is 8:34 in the morning. Now listen, I'm gonna break this up in pieces and I'm gonna share with you. Like I'm doing this in pieces. This thing is so huge. When I finally realized what it was that I was looking at yesterday, because this yesterday was kind of weird for me. I started up. I sat and I read through the whole thing, and then I sat and I thought about it. And what I found myself doing was I found myself charting my life from the year I was born to now, and like some key things that happened in my life. And like I'm looking over this, and I was like thinking deeply about covenant, and then it hit me what I was looking at in Exodus chapter 24. And so I am so excited to share that with you. But in order to do so, like in order to really break this thing down of what I was looking at, I realized that I had to go back. And that's what I was doing today, like breaking it down. Cause like in order to get it, you kind of got to go back, right? What we're looking at is a wedding celebration. It's a wedding celebration. And so, like I said, it took me a minute to catch it. And before I go, I'm gonna go partially back right now, just to like lead you up to this that we're looking at. And like I said, I'm doing this in pieces, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm giving the middle first or like I just don't know. So let me just do it how I got it in my notes, okay? So Exodus chapter 5, verse 3. In that chapter, if you remember reading the story of the Exodus account of the Israelites coming out of Egypt, you remember the first thing that happened was God had Moses go to the Israelites. Go to Pharaoh in Egypt and tell him, let my people go so that they could come and uh, sacrifice a feast. It was called a feast in verse 1, right? So they were supposed to go on a 3 days journey into the wilderness, to Mount Sinai, so that they can sacrifice to the Lord and like celebrate a feast with the Lord. We know like how Pharaoh's response was. We know everything that happened. So then you skip over to Exodus chapter 12, and we know that in Exodus chapter 12, at this point in time, it is the month of Abib, which later on becomes known as Nisan. And so they're coming out of Egypt, right? And this was the first month of the calendar, the month of Abib, Nisan. Exodus chapter 19, you're now in the third month. They have come out, and it's in the third month they make it to the wilderness of Sinai, and where the mountain is. And they're in the wilderness. They're encamped in front of this mountain, and God reveals his intent to them. In Exodus chapter 19, he's talking to the entire nation. Well, he's talking to Moses as far as his intent for the entire nation. And what he says to Moses to tell the people, he says, you saw what I did to the Egyptians, which, like, we didn't go over it now, but you guys already know the story. Again, going back to this Exodus chapter 19, which is what we're talking about right now, when the Lord is speaking and he's given his purpose for the Israelites, what his plan was, right? And so he says, you see what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. It says, and therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice It says, and keep my covenant. Then you shall be a special treasure to me, and keep my covenant. That part always. It says, you shall be a special treasure to me. It says, above all people. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests, the entire nation. It says, and a holy nation. I don't know that many understand that. The church, you guys, the bride of Christ, because remember, the church is the bride of Christ, right? The church, or the bride of Christ, is supposed to be a kingdom of priests, a holy nation, God's special possession, a kingdom of priests. Now, we know we're the church, right? We are the church, right? But the part that we're not getting, even though you hear people saying holiness is right, and it is, the part that we are not getting as the bride of Christ, because we'll say, listen, we've been programmed to say these things, but we're not understanding it. We will say that we're the church, but we're not understanding that we're supposed to be a holy nation, consecrated unto the Lord, meaning separate from this world and how this world does things. We're not supposed to follow behind the practices of this world, including how they do their music, how they dress, how they speak, how they fashion themselves. We are not supposed to follow behind this world, because we are, as the church, the bride of Christ. And as the bride of Christ, we are to be a kingdom of priests. Do you understand? Now, you go to church. You say you're the church. You sit in a church service, and so you think that you are the church and that you are the bride of Christ. But are you preparing yourself for the role that you are to play as the bride of Christ? You're supposed to be a priest, a holy nation. If you obey the voice of the Lord and keep his commandments. It's in Exodus chapter 19, guys. I just had to interject that, because now he's saying to you, will you marry me? Will you marry me? Will you be my bride? Will you be a kingdom, a part of this body that is to be a kingdom of priests? Are you studying to show yourself approved? So anyway, when Moses spoke this to the people, when he spoke this to the people, to the elders, that is, and elders at this point, we're not talking about the old people. We're not talking about chronological age. We're talking about, and we're not talking about titles either. People love these titles today. We're not talking about that. We're talking about those who have shown themselves to be spiritually mature, full of wisdom and experience. So these elders. So Moses is speaking to these elders, right? And he tells the elders everything that God has said, right? And what do the people say? They say, all that the Lord has spoken we will do. Listen. That was a proposal. We witnessed in that verse a proposal. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife? my special treasure. And the people say, yes. They say, all that you have spoken, we will do. Now listen, that's the proposal. And I got to thinking, some of these proposals that they do today are so elaborate. Like they go and they try to be real secretive about it because they want to surprise the person that they've been with, and they got things set up so beautifully, and like, you know, people are doing all types of stuff. You've had people, couples get engaged at sports games, sports arenas, where it comes across the thing, will you marry me? You have people out, you know, or in movie theaters, you know, and they don't pay somebody to come across the screen, will you marry me? You've had like just your average, you know, not exciting proposals. Like, these has been all types of proposals. And what we're looking at here is a proposal. God sets his intent. Moses comes back and tells the people. The people say, everything the Lord has said, we will do. We're looking at a proposal. But the proposal did not start there, y'all. It didn't start there. The proposal actually started, the engagement, this thing, it started way back. We go to Genesis chapter 15. It started here in Genesis chapter 15, where the Lord makes a covenant with Abraham. So here in Genesis chapter 15, this is where Abraham just got through winning a fight, where 3 kings was fighting against 5 kings, and 5 kings lost. But it was that territory, Sodom and Gomorrah, where Lot lived, and Lot had got captured. So Abraham just finished going and taking care of that, rescuing everybody, beating the 3 kings, bringing the Lot family and all these other families back, getting blessed by Melchizedek, who I'm gonna say everybody knows, who is thought to be Shem. And he had to have been feeling some type of way, you know, because he minded his own business. And so now to have to go up and literally fight against these other kings, he probably had some type of feelings, like, you know, now, like sort of like Jacob did when his sons destroyed or killed all the men of Shechem. And Joseph, he was like, you made me a stitch to all these nations. Like, he was concerned about all that. When Abraham, no doubt, was concerned about the backlash now, you know, having now people are looking at him, you know. So anyway, verse 1 of Genesis chapter 15 opens, is one of my favorite verses. It opens with the Lord saying to Abraham to not be afraid. Don't be afraid. He said, I'm your shield, an exceedingly great reward. I did a whole video on that. You gotta go like in my videos and find it. Like I said, that's one of my favorite scriptures. As a matter of fact, I will tell you exactly where to look. Go look in the covenant studies. You can look up under the playlist that's called Understanding Covenant, or the playlist that is called Sabbath studies, because it will be there, because Genesis 15 was one of the Sabbath studies. So y'all know I focused on that verse. So anyway, after saying that to Abraham, Abraham is like, my reward, like, what will you give me? Because I don't have any children that will, you like, inherit anything. You know, my inheritance is going to go to Eliezer, who is not even, you know, my flesh and blood. So anyway, this is what the Lord says to him. This is verse number 5, I think. Verse number 4. Genesis chapter 15. He says, behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir. Talk about Eliezer. The Lord is talking to Abraham. He's saying Eliezer is not going to be your heir. But he says, but one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Then he brought him outside and said, look now towards the heavens and count the stars if you're able to number them. He said to him, so shall your descendants be. And Abraham believed the Lord, and so he counted it to him as righteousness. Because you got to think now, Abraham was old. He was old. But when God told him that, he believed him. So verse 7 says, then the Lord says to Abraham, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to inherit. And he said, so Abraham says, Lord God, how shall I know that I will inherit it? And so this is what the Lord had him do. He said, bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Then he brought all these to him and cut them in two down the middle and placed each piece opposite each other. So you got a piece on this side and a piece on this side. Because remember the animal, he cut them in half, right? The animals, the bigger animals. It says, but he did not cut the birds in two. So the birds would probably be like one bird on one side, one bird on the other side. But the animals was cut in half, which means there is a path, right? And so it says, when the vultures came down on the carcasses, Abraham fought them off. He drove them away. Now, when the sun was going down, this is giving us a time frame now. What time does the sun go down? Like around 6 p.m., right? Well, how about this? 6 p.m. begins the new day. But the day goes from 6 p.m. or from evening to evening. So 6 p.m. begins the new day. So it says, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham. The sun was going down, deep sleep fell on him. Behold, horror and great darkness. Horror and great darkness. It says, fell upon him. Then he said to Abraham, certainly know certainly, that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them in a land that is not theirs. And will serve them, and they will afflict them for 400 years. Also, the nation whom they serve, I will judge. Afterward, they shall come out with great possession. Now, as for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried at a good old age. But in the 4th generation, they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. There's a whole lot in that, even about talking about the iniquity of the Amorites. I just recently did a video on that talked about the weight, this holding pattern, that the Israelites was in a holding pattern, and they had to be held because the Amorites, their iniquity was not yet complete. So there was a reason. There's always a reason that we're going through the various things that we go through. Anyway, it says, verse 17, and it came to pass, by the way, that's in one of the videos. So it says, and it came to pass when the sun went down and it was dark, and behold, there appeared a smoking oven and a burning torch that passed between pieces. Remember, there's an aisle. And what goes down on the aisle, that these animals are not burned up. They're not sacrificed or anything. They're split in half, and it creates a path. And what's coming down the path is a smoking torch, a heart on fire torch. It's your heart on fire. A smoking torch and a burning torch and a smoking oven comes down to the oven. What do you say when a woman is pregnant? You say she got a bun in the oven, right? So you got a smoking oven and you have a burning torch. When your heart is on fire, it's called a burning. Listen, it says that passed between those pieces. On the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I give this land. Keep in mind, Abraham had not yet had any children, not even Ishmael was born. Ishmael was born right after that. So this was a covenant that was made with the children of Abraham before they were even born. And so therefore what you're looking at is the proposal, the actual marriage covenant, this arranged marriage, this agreement where Abram is being told, I'm entering into this covenant with your children. They're going to get this land. And back in the day, when you look at the marriages in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the family was given all types of wealth for this child. Abram was cared for. He was taken care of. God watched over him. And God made covenant with him and with Isaac and with Jacob, because it was the Israelites that came from Jacob that this covenant was being made with. Are you seeing how he went to the father of these children? Anyway, or these children that was to come. Like, he gives it to us in the natural so that we can see this thing. But this was the covenant. And so with Isaac, he says, I'm the God of your father Abraham. With Jacob, he says, I'm the God of your father Abraham and Isaac. With Israelites, he says, I'm the God of your father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These covenants, it was with them. It was supposed to be with them. It had to do with them. So, and this covenant was a marriage. It was a marriage because they, who was to be the bride, they were supposed to be a holy nation, a kingdom of priests. But we know what happened. We know that they messed up. Immediately they messed up. But before we get to that part, because the messing up part, that happens a little later. So before we get to that, let's check out what happens next. Going back over here to Exodus, to where he's actually now dealing with the bride, dealing with the Israelites, dealing with those whom this covenant was originally made for, dealing with them now. And he says to them, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be to me a special treasure above, this is, all people. Above all people. So like I said, the people responded, all that the Lord has spoken we'll do. Up to this point, they had not heard the voice of the Lord themselves. Up to this point, Moses was the intercessor. God would speak to Moses, and Moses would go back and tell them. But here's the thing: God wanted to speak directly to them. He didn't want, to have to go through anybody. He wanted to speak directly to them. So what he does is he tells the people, he tells Moses, that he's going to come to him in a thick cloud so that the people can hear when he speaks to him, when the Lord speaks to Moses, so that the people can hear it. And he gives instructions to Moses to give to the people. And these was the instructions. They were supposed to consecrate themselves, to sanctify themselves, to get ready for the third day. They needed to wash their clothes. Now, for them, it would have been the clothes. But for us today, it is us. It's our hearts, cleansing ourselves. They're consecrating themselves and being set apart. First of all, remember that when they came out of Egypt, it was not just the nation of Israel that came out. It was a vast mixed company that came out with them. There's a bunch of people that left Egypt along with the Israelites. And so they needed to consecrate themselves and they needed to be set apart. Meaning that, if Like at first they were together. So they're like, mm, at first they were together, but they needed to separate. So you'll have the group of the Israelites, 12 tribes, you have that group, and then you have the nations. The nations will still be there. They wasn't being sent away, but the Israelites need to be consecrated. To give you an example, you're given a gift of a basket of mixed fruit. A basket of mixed fruit. So this basket has apples, oranges, bananas, strawberries, cherries, mangoes, grapes, peaches, just all types of fruit in there that's mixed. And so when you receive this basket, you're going to wash your fruit, but you're also going to separate them. Now it's all fruit. It's all meant to be consumed, but you're going to separate them. Now, as you separate the fruit, you might set apart a specific fruit for a specific purpose. For example, as you're separating like your heavier fruits, your oranges, your mangoes, your apples, you're going to separate them from the fruit that's easier to bruise or crush, the cherries and the strawberries. You're going to definitely set them apart because the heavier fruit can damage those. But then you might even set apart, say, the bananas. You might want to use the bananas to make a banana bread or a banana pudding. So you're going to separate. Again, we understand they were supposed to consecrate themselves, which is to set them apart, and then sanctify themselves, washing their clothing to get ready. So now you're going to wash them and sanctifying. Remember, you're setting apart and then you're cleansing. That's what they had to do to get ready for going before the Lord their God. Here's something else to take note of. On the third day, it tells us in the morning. That was verse 16. When I saw that, I wanted to remind everyone to take note of the timing. Take note of the timing. Because the new day for the Israelites, the new day biblically begins at 6 p.m. at night. But King Jesus, in the book of John, I think it was chapter 11, verse number 9, I think it was, he gave us a clue to this time. He says that a day has 12 hours, right? Now, the full day from one day to the next is 24 hours, but the day hours is 12. So the night hours have 12 hours, the day hours have 12 hours, and the new day begins at night, 6 p.m., right? But it goes from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then you have the day hours, which is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So here on the third day in the morning, so that's the second half, and at the beginning of the second half, like 6 a.m. in the morning, it says, and we need to keep note of these times, like this specific about that, something very specific about that. They heard thundering, lightning. They saw lightning, they heard thundering, they saw lightning, it was a thick cloud, and added to that, there was a sound of a trumpet that was very loud, and the people were scared. They were afraid. Now, me reading this, I'm like, you're getting ready to go before God. Why are you afraid? But then I had to think. I was reminded of something. And so I was reminded to tell y'all this story. Back in 2010. In 2010, I lived in Tennessee. I lived in Clarksville, Tennessee. I was there with my daughter. One of my friends from church, one of the church mothers, her older daughter lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and she owned a business where she catered, like it was a side business, where she catered for different big events, including weddings. And so I went to work, we're in 2020, I went to work for her for this particular wedding. And it was Saturday, I went down. I had my son's car. My son was in the military. He was in Afghanistan at the time. He had left his car with me. So I had went down to Nashville, which was like 45. It's a 45-minute drive from Clarksville, Tennessee. I went to Nashville, and the wedding was in the evening, but all the prep and everything. So we was at the house. We were doing all the prep, and I left the car, that my son's car. I left my car at her house, and I rode with her into the downtown Nashville to help set up for the reception, everything in order, and get ready to do the serving and everything. We weren't there for the wedding. We were there for the reception because that was our part of it. So after the reception was over, and I wasn't the only one that was working with her either. I was just one of many, but I came from Clarksville. So I ended up spending the night at her house because it was really, really late. Number one, it was real late. And number two, it was raining. And at the time that the wedding was over, we were trying to break everything down and get back to the car before it really started pouring down. So we were able to get everything, all her stuff and everything, get everything washed up, packed up, put in the car. And she's driving. Now, she works in downtown Nashville, so she knows that area. So she's driving, and I remember her turning down this one street, and she couldn't, the way that she was trying to go, she couldn't go because it had flooded. But I saw something that really stood out to me, and I'll never forget it. I saw, the manholes that be in the street to catch the rainwater or whatever. I saw water bubbling up out of this manhole, and I've never seen anything like that before, where you have the areas that's flooded, but this water is literally coming up out the manhole. Never saw that before. So anyway, she knows the area. She navigates around, and we get back to her house. So we're there. I go to sleep. I woke up with a start. I stepped in the one of the guest rooms. I woke up with a start, and I heard, as clear as day, "Leave now." And I was like, "Oh." So I got up and got myself ready, and I was getting ready to leave out the door, and she was like, you don't have to leave now. You can stay if you want. And I was like, no, I have to go, and I think it was about 5:30 or something when I woke up. It was about 6 o'clock when I'm in the car. It was still kind of dark. I think the lights were just getting ready to come up. So anyway, I get in the car, and at that time it was not raining. So it literally was not raining. So I left out, and I got in the car, and I missed my turn. You were supposed to drive so far, and then you turn, and that turn will take you straight to the expressway, and then I get on the expressway, go home. Anyway, I missed my turn, and next thing I know, I'm in between these two mountains. I'm on this road, and there's mountains on the side of me, and when I tell you, a wave of fear came over me. And when that wave of fear came over me, the first, what it was one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite movies is Twister. I even own a copy of the movie. It's one of my just all-time favorite movies. I love that movie. I've watched it so much. But there's a part in this movie where they were chasing, Joe and Bill was chasing this tornado, and they were trying to put this thing it looked like this thing with these things on the inside of it that tracks the tornado or whatever, to let them know, the Doppler. They had created one, and this was before we have those Dopplers now, but this is when it was first being created, and I guess the movie was about that. And so they was trying to put it in the path of the tornado and then get out of there. So anyway, the tornado lifted, and it was that building, but everything looked clear. But on the screen, for the people that was working with them that was far off, the tornado was still in the area, but they couldn't see anything. And so they were trying to tell them, get out of there. The tornado is going to drop right on you. This girl, Joe, she's trying to pick these things up that had scattered, and fix the machine back. And Bill is trying to yell at her like, we got to go. This thing is getting ready to drop. But she didn't want to hear. But anyway, like that was the first thing. The way the mountains looked that I'm driving through, it looked exactly like that. When you see nothing but mountain, there's road and nothing, and it was something about the sky. I don't know what it was, but when I tell you, this wave of fear rushed over me, and that was like I was like, ugh. And I started yelling at myself. I'm like, that's what you get for watching. Now Twister is not a scary movie. It's a movie about tornadoes, but it's not a scary movie. But anyway, I was like, that's what you get. I'm like yelling at myself. That's what you get for watching those type of movies. I'm like, so anyway, I'm fussing at myself, and I get through the mountain, and I'm like, fussing and praying. I get through the mountain into this next city. I don't know where I am. I'm completely lost. And all I'm trying to do is get to the expressway so I can get back home. When I get out the mountain, no, I was still in the mountain. I had not completely come out, and I thought I heard like it was like a faint siren. Now, at the time, I was listening to this CD from Benny Hinn, an amazing CD, and I can't even remember the name of it now, but I still got it, and I turned the CD down, and I'm like, what is that? So when I come out the mountain, thankfully made it through the mountain, came out the mountain, it was like the siren was loud, and I rolled my window down, and I could hear these horns blowing, like the siren blowing, and there's nobody on the street. Like it's Sunday, like it's early Sunday morning, and like the street is dead, and I am scared. Like, number one, I'm lost. Number two, driving through, like, and all of a sudden I hear this siren. So suddenly there's a car that comes in front of me, but like it's coming towards me, but it pulls into this bank parking lot. So I pulled into the parking lot right behind the car, and when the people got out the car, I'm like, what is that? I yelled at them. I'm like, excuse me, what is that? Because it was a siren, and it was so loud, and I've never heard anything like this before. And they said, oh, it's a tornado nearby. And then now what they say that for, now I'm really freaking out. And I'm like, a tornado? I'm like, I'm trying to get home. Like, and so they say to me, like, they're all calm and everything, and they say to me, keep driving on the street, keep going straight, and the expressway is right there. You're going to run into it. I'm like, are you sure? They was like, yeah. So I come out the parking lot, and I'm holding on the wheel and everything, and I'm driving, and I still don't see the expressway, and I'm starting to doubt. So I can't remember I remember what was on the side of me. It was a gas station that was on the side of me. And there was something across the street. I don't know what that was, but I turned like where the gas station was. I didn't turn into the gas station. I just turned, and I was driving past. And I think the rain was like slowly beginning to come down. I think that's why I got scared too. And so when I turned, I had like passed the gas station just a little bit. And when I tell you, it was like somebody took a bucket of water and poured it on top of me. The rain suddenly, just instantly came down so heavy that I could not see nothing in front of me. It completely whited out in front of me. I could not see nothing. Panic gripped me. I did a U-turn in the middle of the street and went back to the gas station and went in the parking lot, and I was sitting there, and like I was scared. So again, the Twister movie is just playing out in my head, and it's the part where they were at the drive-in. And so I'm like, but I'm at the gas station, and so I'm in the car, my phone getting ready to die, and I'm like, get out the car. Get out the car and go in, because I just felt like that was the safest place for me to go, inside the gas station. But I needed to get out this car. So I wrapped my phone. It was a little flip phone or whatever. I wrapped my phone into my shirt so it wouldn't get wet. And then I had to like talk myself into getting out the car. I was like, get out the car. Get out. 1, 2. And then I jumped and I ran and ran through and ran into the thing. Ran through the water and ran into the gas station. So now I'm in the gas station and I'm panicking. The lady let me charge my phone in the gas station. I was telling her I don't know where I was. I called my friend. She didn't know where I was. The gas station attendant is listening to me like I'm panicking. She didn't even know where I was. And I was trying to describe everything. So when I got off the phone, the gas station attendant, she said, "You're right at the expressway." And like I said, I'm panicking. She said, "So when the rain, when it eases up some, we'll go out there, and I put some gas in my car." And then she said, "And I'll show you." So I put the gas in the car, and she showed me. She said, "You see that light?" I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Cross past that light, and you're gonna see the ramp to go up on the gas station." When I tell y'all, I was right there at the expressway. If I had just kept going straight, but I turned, and because I turned, but if I had kept going straight, I would have ran right into it because I was literally right there. So the rain is coming down. Now, I have absolutely no idea what is happening in Nashville. Like, no idea. I'm on the expressway. My son's car, like I said, my son was in Afghanistan. I hit his car. His tires was not that good on the car. I didn't know. Anyway, I'm gripped on the wheel. I'm driving. It's a bunch of trucks, 18-wheeler trucks. It was a bunch of trucks on the expressway. Why? I don't know. But I was following behind one of the trucks, but I'm going, and they were going fast. I'm going like 40-something miles on, we're talking expressway. So the expressway, it's like you either doing 65, 75, like on the expressway. I'm going 40 on this expressway. Number one, because the roads was wet. Number two, because it was kind of slippery. So I'm like gripping the wheel, holding it. The trucks are flying past me, and as they're flying past me, the wind from them, so I really had to grip the wheel. The other thing is they were spraying water on my windshield, which is why I was going 40, so I could see, driving on this expressway, trying to get out. So family, when I tell you again, I was so scared. So I'm gripped the wheels, and family, I was like, you know what? I started yelling. I'm in the car. Imagine this. I am in the car. I'm by myself in this car, and I'm yelling and I'm screaming, but I'm screaming at the storm. And I'm screaming at the storm, "Don't make me wake up, King Jesus. I am not in this car alone." Because remember the story about when Jesus was asleep, there was in a storm, the disciples they was all in a boat, and a storm had happened, but Jesus was asleep. And so they was like, wait, they woke him up. It's like, "Don't you care? We're about to drown." And he rebuked the storm and it ceased, right? And so I'm yelling at the storm. And I'm like, "Don't make me wake King Jesus up. I am not in this car alone. If I wake him up, you're not going to be able to rain. The earth needs the rain. It needs the water. We need." I was like, "The water, you're supposed to wash the ground, like wash the cars, and water the ground so that the plants can grow." Like, I'm saying all this stuff. I was like, "But if I have to wake King Jesus up to say, how you acting?" Like, I'm literally yelling at the storm. When I tell you, by the time I got done yelling, the storm had stopped. What I didn't realize is I had drove out of it. Again, it's a 45-minute drive, but going 40 miles an hour, it's going to seem like it's longer. I had literally yelled. Number one, I got up early, knowing I just heard that I needed to leave, and I needed to leave now. So I got up. I missed my turn, got lost, was in the mountains. So I had trauma after trauma after trauma. I got lost in the mountains, then heard this siren, found out it was a tornado nearby. I had never experienced a tornado, but me, I love the movie Twister. So experienced that, experienced this water, this like I had these weird experiences. The way that water came down, that rain came down, all of a sudden it was literally like a whole bucket was just turned on top of me. Couldn't see nothing. Everything was white in front of me. I turned around, like I had to go through all that trauma. Finally get on the expressway. Then it's raining real hard. These trucks are flying past me, and I'm holding on to that was just trauma. And I drove my way out of that, screaming at the rain. So anyway, got through that, got past that. I called my friend and I asked her, "Are you at church?" She was like, "No, I don't have a ride." I said, "Get dressed. I'm picking you up. I'm almost there." So I picked her up, took her to church. Then they had this event because I'm like, you know what? After all this, I'm going to church. Just as I am going to church. So picked her up, took her. Then they was having some event at the church, and so the mother, one of the mothers of the church, was doing the cooking, and it just so happened that the mother that was doing the cooking, it was her daughter that I had did the catering with. So I had to go to her house, pick up some stuff. Like I'm driving back and forth in this right, not knowing what's happening in Nashville. That was the year that Nashville flooded. I was down there. I was down there the night before, the day before I left. I literally, when I tell you when the Lord told me to leave now, I had no idea it was flooding. My friend's house, they said that the water, because there was a creek behind her house, she said that the water had come up so high that it came up to the top level of her porch. All of that was flooded. I would have been stuck down there. You could go Google it. The year was 2010 to see what happened to Nashville, just how badly it flooded. So anyway, reminded of that story, the people were afraid. They heard the lightnings, there was thunderings and the lightnings and a thick cloud on this mountain, and the mountain is quaking like it's trembling, and they hear this loud siren, these horns, right? Now, if I had to sit back and think about how I felt in that experience that I had, that I survived through, to help me to understand how it was that those people felt back then, those Israelites felt back then. And here's the deal. In the book of Revelation, where it talks about different ones being afraid and trembling and the fear, the great fear that's going to be on people when King Jesus returns. There's a lot of people now, excited and ready and anticipating, and thinking, but do you realize how fearful that day is going to be? Like throughout the scriptures, it talks about how fearful this day will be. And it makes me wonder, what do we think? What do we picture when it comes to King Jesus? Do we really realize, like we say, that he's great and awesome and awe-inspiring, but what mental picture do we have when it comes to these words and how we're describing it? Because listen, the more I thought about it and the more I looked at this, I started remembering another movie. I started remembering this movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Have you seen that? I'm going to show you a clip. I'm not going to show you a clip of the movie, but I'm going to show you a picture of, and that's another one of my favorite movies. And so I'm going to tell you in a second how it is that this that I'm looking at reminds me now of that movie. Okay, so there's a part in the movie. It's a Steven Spielberg movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And there's a part in this movie where the priests were warned to consecrate yourself. If you do not consecrate yourself, again, it says, let the priests who come near the Lord. So the priests are able to come near the Lord, but they have to consecrate themselves lest the Lord break out against them. So the people was not to go up in general. The people in general was not to try, but the priests who had the okay to go up, they had to first consecrate themselves. And even then, and let me clarify myself for what I just said. Even then, in their coming near, the priests who would come near, they had to do it as God said, which was a part of that consecrating and sanctifying themselves. They could not just up and do it on their own. Nadab and Abihu, two sons of Aaron, found that out the hard way. They died because they offered up, although they were priests. Oh, We get to that part. So when Moses was told by the Lord to go and tell the people, get down, go and tell the people what he said, then the Lord speaks. And when he speaks, that's when he speaks the 10 Commandments. Now he's speaking this, and the people are able to hear this, and they are afraid. It is so perfect that I'm sharing this part now, because when we're talking about like the thunders and the lightnings, it's raining outside, like literally right now, and there is the rumble of the thunder that's happening even right now. So like, I know you can't hear it. You probably can't hear it, but that's so perfect that I'm like sharing this, because it's like being brought alive for me even as I'm speaking it. So God is speaking the commandments to the people, and the people witnessing all of this, witnessing and feeling the earth tremble as it thunders, seeing the lightning, the flashes of the lightning, and like you just imagine the lightning show. Let me get a clip of video of a lightning show. Now imagine, now I say a lightning show, but imagine being at the foot of a mountain and all this stuff is happening around you. Like most people will want to take cover. When a tornado is coming through, you want to take cover. When a hurricane is coming through, you want to take cover. During a earthquake, there's certain. I've never been in an earthquake before, but there are certain precautions that those who live in those areas where they regularly have earthquakes, they know what to do to take cover, to protect themselves. So imagine standing at this mountain and at the foot of the mountain, and all of this stuff is happening around you, and the sirens. Now I've shared my experience already of hearing the siren and not knowing what it was, and so imagine all this stuff, and the horns, the trumpet is getting louder, and that not because a human is blowing it, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. Listen. Our Creator, our God, who wants to talk with us, who wants to dwell with us, who wants to interact with us on a personal basis, we've never seen Him. We believe by faith. The Israelites, not the ones that are alive today, but their ancestors, had the opportunity to experience this, and they were trembling. They were afraid. We haven't seen anything yet, but for those who went through natural disasters, who went through experiencing natural disasters, what they felt during that time, if you've had the opportunity to talk to them, if you know anybody that went through anything, ask them about it. Ask them about how they felt. And each one will tell you about how fearful it was. And again, even in God's Word, like when you read in the New Testament, and it talks about how fear-inspiring this day will be. So God speaks to the people. So God speaks, and the people are afraid, and they say to Moses, "You go, not the car. You go, you listen, and you come back and tell me what God said." Tell us what God said, because they were really, really, really afraid. And that's chapter 20. It is verse number 18, 19. It says, now all the people witnessed the thunderings, the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, the mountain smoking. When the people saw it, they trembled, and they stood afar off. They stood far off, like they were afraid. It says, then they said to Moses, "You speak with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die." That is how, I've said this before, that is how this today, where you have the pastoral that will speak and the people are listening, it started here. Anyway, it says, and Moses said to the people, do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. That part, that part. When you truly have the fear of God, like when you truly don't want to displease God, when you truly have that fear, there are things that you just automatically will not do. You just like, and so when I read that, I was like, wow, like that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. So the people stood afar, but Moses drew near the thick darkness where God was. And then God begins to speak to the people. This is chapter 20 now, verse 22. It says, then the Lord said to Moses, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, you have seen all that I've taught. You have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. You shall not make anything to be with me, gods of silver or gods of gold. You shall not make for yourselves an altar of earth. You shall make for me, and you shall sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your oxen. In every place where I record my name, I will come to you, and I will bless you. It says, and if you make me an altar of stone, you should not build it of hewn stone. If you use a tool on it, you have profaned it, nor shall you go up by steps to my altar, that your nakedness may not be exposed on it. Talking about like your private areas. And then he begins to give several judgments, going from the law concerning servants, like if people working for you, and this was to deal with his people while they were still in the wilderness, before they had even got into the promised land. Laws concerning violence. Now remember, it's a lot of them there, and they have animals and it's kids, and it's just a lot. So, and they're living like in tents in the wilderness as they're traveling. So he gives them laws concerning having other people work for you, therefore concerning servants, laws concerning violence, animal control laws, laws regarding the responsibility for property, like the upkeep of property, moral and ceremonial principles. Justice was his big thing, justice for everybody, and then the law regarding Sabbath and the annual feast. And then again, he makes his covenant with them, as far as, well, this is what it says, because we went over this last week, where he says, you should not bow down to other gods to serve them, nor do according to their works, which is talking about the people of the land they're coming into, which is the Canaanites. You should not bow down to their gods nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. You shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water. Last week, one of the things I explained about the bread and the water is the bread is a shared experience, the water is an individual experience. It says, and I will take sickness away from your midst. Sickness, we're talking about all sickness. He said, I will take that away from your midst. No one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among the people to whom you come, and will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out. So good. God can use anything. He was talking about here about using hornets. Those like bees. They're in the bee family. I should know, because I don't like any of the bees. I don't like any insects. But he said that he would send hornets before them to drive out the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Hivites from before them. And he said he won't drive them all out in 1 year, because he didn't want the land to be desolate, because he was still bringing the people there. So he said that, what did he say? It says, and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. And this time he's talking about like the other beasts, like you got your foxes and wolves and like all of the beasts of the land. He said he didn't want them to become too numerous. He says, little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. And I will set your bounds from the rest. And again, he gives the boundaries. So that brings us to this chapter that we're in now, chapter 24 that we're looking at today, where Moses now tells all the people, because remember the people were afraid to go forth. So Moses went forth and heard everything, and he went back and told the people. And so what do the people say? This is chapter 24. We studied for yesterday. And the people, verse 4, it says, Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said, we will do. So once again, they said yes. It says, and Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. He wrote down everything that the Lord had said, like when he was talking first time. So now here is where it gets exciting. Well, not this specific part. This is the part that happens after what I'm getting ready to share. So what he did was he had called for young men of the children of Israel. And remember, the entire nation was going to serve as priests, not just the Levites. So this would not have been specifically the Levites. He called for, it says then he sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrifices and peace offerings of oxen to the Lord. So they had to build an altar, right? And one of the things they did was they built this altar at the foot of the mountain, and they set up 12 pillars representing each of the 12 tribes. And he had young men from these tribes come, and they brought these offerings, and they slaughtered like all these offerings with the burnt offering. It's a whole burnt offering, so everything is being burnt up. And so they were offering burnt offerings and peace offerings. And with the peace offerings, it's different. With the peace offerings, they get to eat that meat, in front. But the burnt offerings, everything is offered up. And so the blood from those offerings, Moses took this blood and he separated it into two. And so with one, the book that he wrote, he took blood and he sprinkled it on the thing. Here. Did he sprinkle it on the book? I thought he sprinkled it on the book too. Let me just read. It says, then he sent the young men, this is verse 5, Exodus 24, verse 5. Then he sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of the oxen to the Lord. And Moses took, verse 6, Moses took half the blood and put it in basins, and half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Okay, so it's the altar that they set up. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in hearing of the people, and they said, all that the Lord has said we will do and be obedient. All the Lord has said we will do and be obedient. Then Moses took the blood that was in one of the basins and he sprinkled it on the people. And he said to them, this is the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you according to all these words. So, now, this is where it gets interesting. Moses, Aaron, his two older sons, because he had 4 sons total. He had Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. I think Ithamar. Eleazar and Ithamar was the 2 youngest. Nadab and Abihu, they were older. So them two, then 70 of the elders. The number 70 is 2 numbers together, the number 7 and the number 10. And so 70 means perfect completion. So anyway, Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 elders from Israel, they are allowed to go up into the mountain, or to go to the mountain, I guess. They go to the foot of the mountain. Because remember, people backed way up. They were afraid. So they were able to go onto this mountain, and they had this experience. They saw the God of Israel. It says, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone. So I went to go look up these sapphire stones, right? And they come in a lot of different colors with the exception of red. Red is considered to be a ruby, but all these other colors, like it was a pink, it was turquoise, there was like this green, these various blues, and there was this black one that looked so, a turquoise, it was a black one that was so pretty. It looked like the sky with a gigantic sun in it and clouds, like it was so pretty. I'm gonna try to find the chart of sapphires and put it right here so you can see it. Okay, so the 70 elders, Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Aaron's two sons, they are having a feast with the Lord. And they're able to see the God of Israel. They're actually able to see the God of Israel. And what they see is his feet, and how under his feet, and they're describing it. And so you saw the sapphire stones, and you saw how it's many different colors. They come in many different colors. It says that under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and it was like the very heavens in its clarity. It says, verse 11, but on the nobles of the children of Israel he did not lay his hand. So they saw God, and they ate and they drank. That part where it said he did not lay his hand, that means that he did not kill them. The note, what did I do with my glasses? I left them on the other side of the room, so I use these right now. The note, it says, the description of what Moses and the Israelite leaders saw when they approached the God of Israel must employ comparisons. It was something like a paved work of a sapphire stone, and it had a clarity like that of the sky, to my heavens. It says it was similar to, but beyond anything people knew of. The description is further limited in that it offers the point of view of someone face down and able to see only what was under his feet. So listen, how they're describing it. They're there, but it says it's like they're face down. So all they can describe was what was under his feet. They could not see anything else. So it says, the mention that God did not harm the Israelite nobles reflects ancient customs that gave kings the ability to call for the subject's removal or death with just a hand gesture. Instead, he received them with favor. It says, so they ate and they drank. And again, that reminded me of the customs, I should say, the customs of marriage, the marriage celebration, and how they did their customs as far as eating and drinking, or this celebration, right, that is had. Like for instance, today when people get married, after the ceremony, after the wedding ceremony itself, then what do? They go to the reception hall and they eat and they drink and they fellowship, and that's what you're seeing here. But this thing is huge. It is huge, and so while they're eating and drinking and celebrating, Moses is called to come up higher, even higher. Like, remember, they're at his feet. They're able to look and describe his feet. Moses is called to come up. So it says, verse 12, then the Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and be there. And I will give you tablets of stone and the law and commandments which I have written, that you may teach them. So Moses gets up, and with his assistant Joshua, he leaves to go up into the mountains. And so he says to the elders, wait for us here until we come back to you. He says, indeed, Aaron and Hur, Hur, he was of the tribe of Judah. It says, indeed, Aaron and Hur are with you. Sorry, my facial expression. So Aaron was of the tribe of the Levites. Hur was of the tribe of Judah. Judah represents government. Anyway, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man has a difficulty, let them go to them. To who? To Aaron or Hur. To the priests or the government. It says, then Moses went up into the mountain. This is verse 15. Then Moses went up into the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain. Now the glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. On the 7th day, he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. The sight of the glory of the Lord was like. So he's describing again, like this experience, or what he was able to see. So it says, the sight of the glory of the Lord was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. So for them to see the glory of the Lord, it was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain. So Moses went into the midst of the cloud and went up into the mountain. And Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. When I tell y'all this thing is huge, this thing is so huge, I started pulling my hair apart. Going over it. There's so much more that I want to share about this, but I have to hold it, because to go to share, it would take me into these next covenants. But as an overview, you saw a wedding, and you saw the celebration of the wedding. That's what chapter 24 was. It was the celebration of the wedding. Now, as a treat, I want to share, because this is not my first time seeing or dealing with or talking about the wedding ceremony. Back when I first started doing a radio broadcast, back when I first was getting into this ministry, and the Lord was pouring so much into me, and I was able to do a radio broadcast on my husband's radio station, New Praise Radio. I did a series called what is it called? Without a Trace. It's like 4-part series. And so remember, this was radio, it was audio, it wasn't video. And part part 4. All of the parts were good, but part 4 was the actual wedding. And it took you into the bridal chamber. Like, we saw everything. It was just so amazing. So what I'm gonna do is, while this is uploading, this video is uploading, I'm gonna go grab that audio. I am going to work on creating I don't know if I want to do just a cover to it and let the audio play only. I haven't quite figured that out. I think I might do some wedding pictures, some bridal pictures, I don't know. But I want to share that video with you all. And there's so much more that has to be spoken, because this chapter is very key. Exodus 24, the wedding ceremony. This chapter is very key. It's a key chapter. This is the actual ceremony. But what happens when, and think about this, what happens, based on that culture, what happens when you go through the ceremony, you do the engagement, you're legally married, but you gotta wait to get your bride, and so it's finally time, and you go to get your bride, and something happens. The bride that you get is in Jacob's case, the next day when he got up the next day, he found out that the bride that he had was not the right bride. He worked and was promised Rachel, but he received Leah. What happens when, well, I think we're going to talk more about this next Saturday. I think this is going to come up, but again, this is a key chapter. And in this chapter, you saw the ceremony. And what you saw is that God wants to dwell with his people. That was amazing. This is a marriage. And I don't quite think that everybody really understands. I think that we understand the legalities of church, going through the motions, going and sitting in the service and hearing a sermon and singing some songs and coming back. But I don't think that as a people we really understood this covenant that we entered into when we chose the creator of this universe to be our God, when we chose to receive King Jesus as our Lord and Savior. I don't think that we truly understood the marriage that we entered into, that it even was a marriage. I don't think we understood. I don't think we understood. With that, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to get this video uploaded, and I'm gonna get to work on the other one. And yeah. Enjoy. Oh, the other one, you're invited to the wedding of the millennial. The wedding of the millennial. Yeah, you're gonna love that one. Bye for now. Thank you for watching. Turn for me.
let that temporary hurt make you feel sad. Don't let nobody put you down and make you feel bad. Don't let another person's disrespect get you mad. Stay in the present, you won't find the future in the past. The blessings coming could be the best you ever had. Could be somebody that'll treat you better than your last. The road to better is in front of you, just hit the gas. Get out your feelings, get the Bible, then get in your bag. You got so much potential, I believe in you. And I've been noticing the growth, that's that seed in you. You something special, I can tell Christ the King in you. You feel weak, start praying, that's what believers do. Isaiah 41:10, God's righteous right hand to make you stronger. Don't fear, you won't be broken again. Deuteronomy 6 verses 6 through 8, be strong and courageous, you don't have to be afraid. John 3:16, God loves you, just believe. Your sins like scarlet, he'll wipe the slate clean. Isaiah 1:18, the world can be mean. You feel brokenhearted, God will intervene. Psalms 34:18, and when you have anxiety, guess who there for you? 1 Peter 5:7, God cares for you. I'm trying to tell you, keep changing, angels clap for you. All them prophets wrote the Bible, it's a map for you, so you can find life like God wants you to. Real peace is real love that he got for you. What you see is temporary, it won't be like this forever. Keep getting yourself together, God promised something better for you. Real talk. You don't have to be good enough for a human, cause you good enough for God. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Revelations 21:4-5, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. Right, for these words are faithful and true.